The accident of the U.S. Guardian, a minesweeper of the U.S. Navy which ran aground at the Tubataha Reef, has raised a major concern from our government. What caused the incident to happen? And what damages will the U.S. government pay to the Philippines? How will the inquiry be? And will the commander of the U.S. ship be summoned? What measures will be undertaken to lift the said ship from the area? Tonight, these questions and more will be answered by DOTC Secretary Joseph Abaya. Secretary Abaya was designated by the President to head a board of inquiry to find out why the incident was not avoided. Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening, Robert, and good evening to our televiewers.
Sir, how will you conduct the inquiry? As a former Navy officer, do you have any idea why the commander, given the sophistication of his vessel, ran aground at the Tubataha Reef?
Well, first of all, it is the mandate of the Philippine Coast Guard to look over or protect the maritime environment. Thus, we have tasked the Philippine Coast Guard, headed by the Commandant, Admiral Isorena, to form a fact-finding team and actually convene a board of marine inquiry to look into the circumstances and the facts that led to the eventual grounding of the USS Guardian. As to why it ran aground, given its sophisticated navigational equipment, that we've yet to find out. It is quite amazing, but before we could speculate on what happened, it is best that we gather the information first.
So what is the best way to lift the ship from the area? And will the inquiry include communications from the bridge to the engine room of the ship? And was the ship equipped to determine that its course was heading towards the reef?
Well, of course, this is a naval warship. It has its own, it is not a plain commercial vessel where probably jurisdiction will then be quite clear. It is not easy for any sovereign state to board another warship of a different state. We do hope they will cooperate in this investigation, but I think at the end of the day, the Republic Act that basically protects Tubataha does not look into the causes of the damage or why a ship ran aground. It is more particularly addressing the right of to file for a claim for damages. It doesn't look into whether the cause of the damage was negligence, inadvertence, or an intentional agrounding. So that we have yet to look into. We still have to convey that to the U.S. Navy. However, for the meantime, before we could even get into maritime environmental protection, the logical first step is to get the ship lifted and off the reef to ensure that no more damage would be done and an oil spill is negated.
So just for clarification, before the right of passage is given to any foreign ship, especially a naval vessel of another country, what is the protocol? Is permission sought through the DFA or the Defense Department? And is there an exact course which they should follow?
Well, generally, I think the visit, we have had regular port visits from the U.S. Navy and other allied navies, and a popular port is Subic Bay. This ship in particular came from Subic, and I heard it was also scheduled to make a port call in Puerto Princesa. However, there's info that along the way it was diverted and told to bypass Puerto Princesa and proceed then to Indonesia. I'm not privy to what port it's supposed to go to. I'm sure it has gone through clearances. It has to clear with the DFA and likewise with the DND, in particular for particular visits by U.S. Navy vessels.
So how do we determine how much the U.S. government will pay for any damages caused in the reef?
I haven't gone through the Republic Act, but I think there's a fixed formula there. X number of pesos for per square meter of damaged reef. We have not looked into this yet. I think that will eventually follow. Probably there are NGOs and other government agencies better positioned to do this. But for the meantime, our clear task is clear: salvage the vessel first, get it off the reef, and eventually assess the damage to the reef.
So this may be an isolated incident, since the U.S. has always operated in the Pacific and South China Sea, passing through Philippine waters. What should be done to avoid a repeat of this incident?
Well, clearly they made mention of error in their navigational chart. I assume by now they are correcting that error in their system. I guess on our part, then the notice to mariners should be made clear, or the exclusive zone where vessels are prohibited from entering should be widened, so as to have an earlier warning system in place to keep the reef off all these flying vessels in the Sulu Sea.
And sir, finally, how is the communication or coordination with the U.S. government with regards to this incident?
Well, initially that was the challenge from the DOTC end. We were quick to form our task force because we merely called in the Coast Guard and the Marina. Yesterday, General Oban met with Philippine Coast Guard Commandant Isorena and Attorney Nick Conti to organize the DOTC agencies involved in this. However, we had no direct line with the U.S. Navy. We eventually coordinated with the Philippine Navy and the Armed Forces, where they have a direct link. Thus, General Oban flew to Puerto Princesa, met up with the Flag Officer in Command, Admiral Alano, and had a chance to meet with Admiral Thomas Carney. He's the commander of Task Force 73. He is designated as the on-scene commander for the U.S. Navy. So that met up. Tomorrow, weather permitting, they'll be doing, Philippine side and the U.S. Navy side will be doing their independent assessment of the options for the salvage operations. Then eventually, one plan will be crafted, vetted by the Philippine Navy, and the U.S. Navy should not proceed without complete and approval of the Philippine Navy to ensure that the salvage operations won't cause further damage to the reef and keep it at a minimum.
So right now, do you have any idea on how long this inquiry will take and how long these salvage operations will take?
We have no idea yet because we have not seen the damage. If it's minimal, then it could be quickly done. But if it's quite significant, it would be assessed. Could this be done by merely fogging, pulling the vessel off the reef? There has been made mention of the necessity of bringing of a heavy lifting ship, meaning a ship that has a high capacity crane that could literally lift the USS Guardian from the reef and load it on a different vessel. So those are the options that the U.S. Navy is contemplating, and a decision will be made only after the initial assessment.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for joining us tonight on News Live. That was DOTC Secretary Joseph Emilio Abaya.
Thank you.